Is the p-value used in probabilistic statistics actually really a good measure to help you to kind of like gain ground on Occam's razor? Well, we all know, and statistics is partly based on that, we want to have every model as simple as possible and as complex as necessary. But here comes the point. Probability values really struggle with complexity. If you have phenomena such as autocorrelation or multicollinearity, so in other words your data is just messed up and it's too complicated to understand, and you have all sorts of struggles and like filters that you can go through in order to gain some understanding to this end, on the complexity end, well, that's okay. But these are all additional measures that were implemented onto the probability measure. So technically it doesn't have anything to do with p-values. The p-values are messed up if you have a model that is too complex. Now let's look at the simple end of the gradient. So what about simplicity within statistical models and p-values? So here the problem is, yes, the p-value helps you to identify whether there's a statistical relation, but it doesn't tell you really anything how strong it is. There are other measures that people used in the past, such as explained variance and like all sorts of other different things. But it became a little bit abusive around the millennium in terms of like people were only obsessed with like how much the model explains. So you need a fine line of like, okay, on the simple end, how much can you understand? And you should always take this with a grain of salt. And on the complex end, you have to be like hyper careful in like how all sorts of things can go wrong. So taking the p-value, taking the probabilistic measure that is the basis of frequentist statistics, getting the simple and the complex together, that's something that you can do as an initial start. So that's the basic like beginner's level that you take in order to look at models. In most cases you will be fine. It will just work out wonderfully. But in some cases, and particularly when you see like how you bump into trouble, when you really have things that are very complex and that are really messed up, or when on the other end simplicity counts and you have something that is beautiful and should be really like trimmed down, but you need to understand it. You really need to understand, okay, do I know what's going on? And when you have these two things together, then you can start with p-values, and later when you're more advanced you do something else.